Have you been feeling overly exhausted lately? Have you been having vivid dreams or altered sleep patterns? Do you feel excessively drained even though the external world seems to be slowing down? This is the thing. It's our soul that is tired. Your internal world is working overtime. You're working 24-hour shifts back to back in the astral plane. This is what is moving your life forward. We don't give ourselves enough time or enough credit to realize how much work we're doing energetically. This is what is actually pushing us forward. So when in the external it might seem to have been slowed down, things are actually accelerated internally, and that's why we're feeling tired. My name is Angela Cleary. I'm a feminine empowerment coach. I specialize in healing after narcissistic abuse, and I also offer twin flame and spiritual guidance. This is the thing. We don't give ourselves, we're creatures of doing anyway. I keep going on about this. We think that we have to be doing all the time to be productive. But lately, we can't actually do a lot because we're so fucking tired. And then we're asking ourselves, seems like I'm doing less, but yet I'm more drained. I might only be working a few hours a day, or I might only be, doing certain things a few hours a day, but yet come afternoon, I'm really drained. I'm getting what seems like a restful night's sleep, but I'm really tired. Vivid dreams, and actually waking up an awful lot in the middle of the night as well. This is it. We think that if there's no external reason, then there's no reason to rest. But this is the thing. Our internal system is on overdrive. It's been accelerated, especially with these timeline shifts that we're going through. We're really doing an awful lot of work internally. And that does not get enough credit. That does not get enough celebration. We feel like that the external, the material, that's the win. That's the goal. And that's when we're going to feel happy. That's fair enough. But how do we get there? How are we winning so much with just these baby steps? We're manifesting so much with these baby steps. And it doesn't look like we're doing an awful lot. But we're still so tired. Why are we so tired? It's because your soul is tired. And that's it. Your soul is energetically drained. This is why we're so tired in the evenings. Because how do we get the success externally? That can't be achieved unless we fix the inside. And the inside is a lot of work in progress. It's a lot of work. So our soul is literally doing back-to-back 24-hour overtime shifts all the fucking time. All the time. And it's after getting more accelerated lately. So our soul has not had time to rest. And, this is weird. It came to me yesterday. I was doing my Kundalini yoga. And your man was mentioning stuff about if there's anything going wrong in your life, if there's anything breaking down or anything like that. And I was like, things are grand. Everything seems to be running smoothly. Everything seems to be okay. There's nothing really out of order. And I took a minute to pause and I was like, but there's a reason I'm listening to this message. There's a reason I'm hearing this message right now. And this was an old session of Kundalini yoga. So I was guided to watch it again. And I was just like, there's something obviously amiss. What am I missing? What is out of balance? What do I need to hear here? And I realized it was because my internal world is all over the shop. It's in chaos. You know what I mean? And it's like organized chaos. I know that sounds weird, but it's like internally everything is going right. It's going smoothly. We're doing the work to progress on the external, but it's constant movement. It's constant chaos. So can you imagine, I used to work in factories, so everything was like run all the time. And, that's what the inside mind is like when we're doing the ascension, when we're doing that healing work, when we're doing all that introspection. It's constant. It's all the time. And we have to be mindful to give ourselves enough rest for that. But it's like this whole analogy. I've done this before. We ignore our mental health because it's not a big open fucking wound. But it is. But you just can't see it. So I've done this analogy before. If there's an open wound on your leg and you ignored it, what the fuck does it do? It fucking gets bigger. So that's like your mental health. If we ignore it, it's going to get bigger. But there's not even anything bad going on the inside. It's like we're ignoring the need for rest. We're ignoring, I've mentioned this as well. If we don't celebrate our external wins, we're just going to push forward and then we're going to go into overdrive and then we're going to hurt ourselves because we're not doing that enough time for rest. So, we need to give our bodies rest or preparation time. Do you know what I mean? For the next phase. And we do that externally, but oftentimes we don't do that until we're forced to rest. Unless we get an injury or we feel ill or anything like that, and we're forced to sit down and pause. And it's only in the moments of pause that we realize that there's so much that we can actually prepare for in the next steps. But the internal world needs a break as well. And that's the realization I came to. It was like this fucking epiphany moment. It was like, oh, duh. It's like I'm doing so much to push forward externally that I'm forgetting how much work I'm actually doing internally. And it feels like the external is slow. This is the weird thing with time right now. 1 month feels like fucking years. But it feels like the external is slow. But when you actually write it down, and I had it written down in front of me the other day of all the things I've achieved since, say, December. And it's an awful lot. But, when we don't see it, in a list or right there, we're kind of going, I didn't really do much since September or December. I just did this, I did this, I did this. And when you're like kind of doing it like that, it just doesn't meld together. But when you actually write down a list, you're like, oh, put that all together in one fucking list. And you're like, wow, I've done so much. But we need to give ourselves credit for that to move forward. But we give ourselves credit, but we really celebrate the person who's done all the hard work? And the person who does all the hard work is the inner you. You know what I mean? We can't achieve the things that we want to achieve without the inner work that we do first, without that inner healing, without that building that strength and that confidence, that courage, that inner self pushing us to make the decisions through the fear, through that feeling of unreadiness. This is the thing, and we don't come back to that. You know what I mean? We kind of got two sides to ourselves. We've got the physical, but we've got the spiritual. We've got the internal. And that's the part of us that's doing all that work to get us really far externally. And we never really separate the two. We never really acknowledge the inner because we're too busy acknowledging the outer world, that materialistic world. And it's not even just about materialistic items. It's about striving in your career. But we're creatures of this habit of if it's not visible, it's not real. But the invisible is so much more powerful than the visible, because the visible wouldn't be possible without the invisible. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't be possible to get to where we want to go, to achieve what we want to achieve without the internal. So this is why it's so important to step back and see how much hard work you've done internally. Because as I said, if you do it on the external, yes, it's going to look like you've done a lot because you have done a lot. But that list is tiny compared to what you're doing internally. And we seem to neglect that and we seem to forget about it. We were like, oh, I have to push forward. I have to do this, do. No. Be in the moment and acknowledge yourself for how much you've achieved internally. So measure back to how you felt a year ago. Measure back to how you felt 2 years ago. Where were you 5 years ago and how did you feel? And what kind of energy were you under? Were you your true self? Were you truly confident? Because, you didn't get to here and now after healing from trauma because you just kept doing. No, you healed internally. You faced that pain with your internal strength. And in healing that pain, you were able to become strong enough to change your external world. So that's why it's just to take that moment and to see, because we're always going, oh my God, I have to do this. I'm not far enough ahead. I'm late. I'm delayed. You're not delayed. Everything is happening exactly as it's supposed to. And we keep, as I said, we keep rushing in the external without acknowledging the fact that we've ran fucking marathons. You know, we've climbed so many fucking mountains internally. We should be giving our internal self all these medals, all these awards, you know, these acknowledgements to say, hey, Jesus, you've done quite a lot here. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and I can say that, like, you know, I've done a lot externally in the last few months. But if I wanted to sit down with, say, since the start of December, probably October. Actually, it's all of it. But, you know, even in 5 months, right? October is 5 months. So within the last 6 months, I've gone through a couple of heart awakenings. I've gone through deep, deep wounding release. I've gone through my persecution wound, my not enoughness wound, my unworthiness wound. I've gone through bouts of release and fear. I've gone through so much internal turmoil to get to a place of finally being good in myself again. Do you know what I mean? So the mountains that I've climbed internally over the last few months are way bigger than the ones I've climbed externally. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot to be proud of in the external, but the external wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the internal. Do you know what I mean? Who pushes you forward? Your internal self. Who guides you to the next step? Your intuition and your internal self, the universe, God. You know, who gets you past your healing days, your purges, your internal self. You know, I know it sounds weird, like, you know, because your internal self is you, but we just don't acknowledge them for the profound work that they're doing for us. You know what I mean? And I know that that's ourselves. Like, we're doing this for ourselves, but it's an acknowledgement of that over time. You know, because I can say, like, over the last, you know, I'm doing everything at my own pace. I do things my way. And I do it in such a way to protect my energy, so I don't overwhelm. So sometimes it might feel like I'm doing a lot of pause, you know, in order to propel myself forward. And I feel guilty for that sometimes. And then I'm like, you know, should I not be doing it this way? Should I not be doing it this way? Should I not have more productivity? But the thing is, there is productivity happening. It just feels different. And, you know, in actual fact, we're kind of saying, I didn't do enough here. Look inside. It mightn't have felt like you did much on the outside, but you did so much internally in order to get to where you are. That's massive. You know, and we might just, if we win externally, we might just give ourselves a pat on the back and move on. But right now you have to look within and say to yourself, wow, what you've done for us is fucking amazing. It's immense. It's profound. You know, it's monumental. And that's it. It's, you know, we sugarcoat the internal work. You know, and this actually reminded me of something my friend sent to me. I think it was back in December. You know what I mean? Like, I brush off the internal work and I'm like, that's just a part of the journey. That's fine. You know, I'm moving on to the next level. It's all for a reason. So I could have a massive purge and, you know, I understand that it's to release, to let more in, you know, and I understand this. And then that's all I say. It's like, yeah, that had to happen. Let's move on. And it was only my friend said it to me one time. I was just like, yeah, but that must have been tough, was it? And I was like, no, but sure, it's fine. You know, it's just part of the journey. And I'm like, it was fucking tough. You know, and this is the thing, right? I'm afraid to speak too much on the internal work as I'm going through it. It's just like, yeah, I did it. I'm great. Let's move on. Because I'm afraid to stay there. I'm afraid if I speak on the negative will hang around. But I have to acknowledge and that's what I've been doing. Like, you know, oftentimes I'll forgive somebody and then I'll forget about it. And then a few months later, all the pain from it will come back. It's just like, oh, I forget them first without actually feeling how painful it was. And that's what we have to acknowledge with our internal self. Acknowledge the work they do. And it's like with us in human world as well. You know what I mean? If we do a good job and if we're working hard, we do want acknowledgement. It's not necessarily praise, or it's not to become vain or anything like that. It's literally just to kind of go, somebody appreciates me for me. So now it's time to appreciate you for you. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing, I've been sugarcoating how hard it was, I was sugarcoating how painful it was. And it wasn't even just, it's kind of to give yourself a hug. To give yourself that hug and just say, hey, you did this, good girl. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's kind of a way of saying, I see you. I acknowledge you. You've done so much hard work and I'm appreciative to you for doing that. Say that to yourself, because you know how important it feels to feel like you matter. To feel like that your hard work is being noticed and that you're appreciated. That's externally. But how do you think your internal self feels when you're ignoring them all the time and going, yeah, that's just your job. That's just your job. You know what I mean? That's just your job. No. Hug them. Say, hey, I see you, man. Fucking hell, well done. You know what I mean? I appreciate you. You've done so much work. And I won't ignore you again. And that's the shadow side of it. The shadow has many different aspects. I'm actually learning more about shadow in this last week as well. It's, it's not just the dark side or parts of ourselves that we're hiding. If we ignore parts of ourselves, like just ignoring, acknowledging ourselves, that's suppression. That's shadow. And that can lead to disease or uneasiness as well. So it's acknowledging every single part of yourself, but appreciating those parts of yourself that are doing this hard work. Because you can't achieve externally unless you achieve internally. So your hardest worker is your soul doing that astral work all the fucking time, overtime, every day, 12-hour shifts, back to back. No wonder your sleep patterns are off. You're on the astral realm in the nighttime as well, so your soul is never asleep. That's why the vivid dreams are there. There's messages. You're going through all that stuff. You know what I mean? And that's why you're wrecked. Is because energetically what you're giving to this world is draining you, because your internal world is accelerated in its growth as well. So, you might be only doing short bouts of, energy work during the day, physically, but you're overly tired because your soul doesn't stop working. And it's time to appreciate yourself, your soul, for everything they do. And give yourself that rest in between. Because that's, you might not think that you need it extra. And you're like, I didn't do that much today. You did fucking loads. You woke up, you fucking energetically fucking healed stuff. You know what I mean? You did all the work that you put out to this world. Give yourself a break. Your internal self needs a rest as well. Your internal self needs acknowledgement. Your internal self needs celebration. Because, you make a great team. But what if your internal self wasn't doing that work? You'd do fucking nothing. You'd be sitting on that couch all the time, watching TV. Because your internal self would be like, let's just stay here where it's comfortable. Do you know what I mean? So you have to acknowledge yourself for your wins internally as well as externally. Don't ignore those parts of yourself. You're doing a lot of work. And it's you don't have to stay in the negativity, because your inner self is getting rid of that anyway. But just acknowledge it. Just say, I see you. I feel you. I appreciate you. To yourself every single day. Give yourself that warm hug and just say, wow, you've done so much to get me to where I am right now. Just that acknowledgement. And that will help you to propel forward. And have those rest days. Just have those rest days. And I really was guided to do a rest day yesterday. Complete rest. As in I just be. Just be. Because my soul needed time to catch up with the external world. My soul needed time to replenish, to rejuvenate, to reset. And that's what it's for. So, appreciate yourself. You're doing so much internally. Even if you don't see it, you are doing so much work all the time. You're doing overtime. Your soul is the one that's tired. So listen to that, acknowledge them, appreciate them, nurture them, and be kind to yourself. So thank you so much for listening today, and I really hope this resonates. If it does, please like and share, and please subscribe to my channel so I can reach as many people as possible. And if you would like help on your journey, please book me for a discovery call today, and I'd love nothing more than to help you on your path.